Hey everybody, hope everybody's doing okay during this quarantine time. I'm upstairs in Alessio's room. It's the only kind of privacy I can get. I usually don't do these videos, but I think during this quarantine I realized a lot. Um, I miss being heard. I know in the last 10 years was the last time I actually put somebody in the Navy. Me and my therapist talked the other day, and I think this quarantine allowed me to kind of overthink my situation, everything in my life. I've been blessed. I mean, the truth be told, I've been blessed. Um, I really miss the spotlight. And I'll kind of break it all down on what I'm talking about. I was in Navy 12 years. 7 of those years was recruiting, and I really want to discuss why I chose Navy. A lot of my deppers who are listening are now my friends, fellow sailors, however you want to put it. You know the reason why. You all heard the presentation. But for my own family, maybe not necessarily. I kind of keep work at work and kind of keep to myself at home and joke around and, be the person I am. But truth be told, I miss it. I miss the spotlight. I miss being involved in people's lives the way I had when I was a recruiter, even back in the times when I was in the fleet. So let's backtrack to the beginning. Um, what made me decide on Navy? When I was 17, my dad had a heart attack, and it scared the shit out of me. I had a great childhood. I owe it to my family, my dad's hard work, my mom's hard work, 2 older brothers that me and Fernando didn't have the best upcoming because I was always being like kind of bullied and wrestled with, and you know how it is, getting fights with big brother and things happen. Dominic was way older than me, so he's somebody that I look to for sports. I learned from both of them, and today I guess I should be really blessed that we all hang out. We've been playing poker during this quarantine, but when I was 17, my dad had a heart attack, and as y'all know, my dad passed away 4 years ago. But like I told my deppers, seeing him on the ground gasping for air made me realize that he's not going to live forever, and obviously not. At the time, I was definitely a good son, but I was capped out on my capabilities of what I was going to do. Everything was day to day. And seeing him on the ground made me realize, have I been the best son? Um, have I been the best brother? Have I been the best friend? And I made a promise when he recovered that I would do my best. I would do my best to give back. I would do my best to take the Gonzales name to the next level as far as our own home and what the way we came up. Both my parents didn't finish high school. So obviously it was important for us to finish high school. But what next? I didn't feel I was capable of going to college. Not that I couldn't do it. I just wasn't motivation. It wasn't there. But I decided overnight that I was going to enlist in the military. And Michael always jokes around how, white Navy. And I remember going to a Marine Corps recruiter at Gulfgate Mall and saying, hey, what do you have, or what can I do? And he was just really gung-ho. You're going to be a Marine. You're going to be a Marine. Over and over again. And for those ex-recruiters that are listening to this, I was a walk-in at Gulfgate. No issues, no drug issues. um, I didn't do well on the East, but when I went to the Navy recruiter, he asked me, what do you want to do for my Navy? And it kind of made me say, what? Like, you pick what you want to do. It's like, based off your qualifications, blah, blah, blah. You pick what you want to do. So I decided right then and there, Navy's my option. So I go back home and break the news to my family. Mom, Dad, I want to join the Navy. And of course, my mom, that's local too, you're going to die. All that stuff like that. Plus, looking back at my childhood, I was a definite mama's boy. Um, I grew up at a good time. Dominic and Fernando had maybe a more challenging life, growing up in Avenue J and Hickory. When I was born, my dad was already working 2 jobs day and night. My mom was working, had a good job. Um, I was a spoiled boy. Um, but at the same time, I stayed away from drugs, stayed away from drinking, stayed away from all the bad stuff, and including the wannabe gangster life. I was with friends with everybody. I was cool with everybody, but that just something about that lifestyle, I owed it to my dad to kind of avoid. Um, Luckily, I picked some good friends, some really good friends, and I had a really fun childhood. So, fast forward, Navy's the option. And my mom and dad didn't take the news too well, but I was 17 when I signed up, so they had to sign the papers, and they did. And so now I committed. I went to boot camp and rude awakening. You know, growing up, opening your eyes, seeing your dresser, your cajon, or whatever you want to say, it really, it was really like, oh my God, I'm here. I was motivated to leave, but once you're there, you're there. And just like I told my deppers, Navy boot camp's not hard. It's a mental transition from civilian to military. How quick can you 80 guys from different parts of the U.S. work together as a team and accomplish the mission, whatever it is? So that was the secret. The first 2 weeks of P days, it sucks. They can't do nothing. You're not fit for full duty yet. So you're hurry up and waiting, hurry up and waiting, hurry up and waiting. So as a matter of fact, this quarantine, I got a lot of training, but I've been spoiled in my last, I guess, 20 years plus, away from boot camp. So once you get the fit for full duty stamp, everything begins. But a lot of it is classroom time. It was still an experience. Um, but one story I want to tell, and it kind of fast forward when I became a Navy recruiter, I kind of used this story to motivate others and let them know where I came from. Growing up with my mom, I didn't grow up on Disney movies. I didn't grow up on, lovey-dovey movies. I grew up on horror, grew up in gangster movies, but I knew better. I was 3 years old when I first saw Scarface, and I remember sitting on my mom's lap crying because Tony Montana got shot, and I was yelling, turn around, all kinds of crazy stuff. But I was scared to death of water. I didn't know how to swim. Yes, I joined the Navy not knowing how to swim. I didn't think about what would happen when it came to the swim tests. So around maybe fourth week, you go to your swim qualifications, and there's a diving board, like a high tower thingy. It's probably only about 12 feet up, but when you're 12 feet up looking down to 12 feet of water, or maybe more, it looks really high. So Navy was less PC back then. So I remember they were asking for people who joined the Navy doesn't know how to swim. Come on, we always have those people that join the Navy and don't know how to swim. Fess up. And I'm seriously like, I want to raise my hand, but I want to be that person. And I'm looking to my left, looking to my right. And I even joke around saying, come on. The guy next to me was Hill. He was from Alabama. I said, come on, man. I know you black guys can't swim either. Let's go. Let's raise our hand. And we joked around. But finally, they said, all right, everybody line up. And then I raised my hand. I can't swim. So once again, less PC back then. I remember Boykin was his name. Says, Gonzales, how does the hell as a Mexican join the Navy and not know how to swim? How did you get in my country? And you know me, I'm real quick wit as far as throwing jokes back. I yelled, it was 3 feet where I crossed petty officer. And then he chuckled a little, but got to keep his, game face on. So they point at the other end, and it's the shallow end. There's guys, probably Navy SEAL applicants, just people there to kind of teach you the basic maneuvers. So I go in there, learn the basic maneuvers, hands behind the head, like doing backstroke is what they teach you, how to float on your back. And then after maybe 5 minutes, they ask you to go line up. So as I'm walking up to the tower thingy, climbing up the stairs, I realize, oh my God, it's high. Inside, I'm shaking, scared. Everything on my childhood is popping up. If you remember the movie Nightmare on Elm Street, where she's in the tub and all of a sudden his claw comes through and the tub is like 20 feet deep. I remember holding onto the soap dish when I was 5, 6 years old, afraid that I was going to fall through and that Freddy was going to get me. Obviously, Jaws was a big scare for me. So my mind always told me, the PTS with the water, blah, blah, blah. I was scared of water. I would go to the beach and hang out, waist deep, but I would never go if I can't touch ground and I panic. So here I am climbing the stairs. I'm up there. And one thing that I realized that made me feel a lot better is I told myself, they're not going to let you drown. They're not going to let you drown. So jump and do what you're told. Follow directions. And I tell that story because when I was a Navy recruiter or a motivational speaker, I would tell my applicant that story. Obviously, if they heard my class presentation, they hear it. But I would remind them, I'm not going to let you drown. I have, already experienced what the Navy has to offer. I experience great situations where I learn the good and the bad. So my job was to coach you on how to be better than me. So back to boot camp, I jumped, fell into the water. I remember not panicking. And as I was floating, I started treading water. And then I started to swim. I put my hands like in the, the position. And I started swimming. And I started moving. And I remember the RDC yelled, I got shits that move faster than you. And I got to a cone. And he just told me, get out, you pass. Never had to get in a pool again. Spent 12 years in the Navy not knowing really how to swim. Now, I used to work the flight deck of, assault carrier. And I used to tell people, where am I going to swim to if I fall in the water? I can survive in the water. I had a float coat in case I fell in the water, but I would never willingly go into the water and swim. That just wasn't me. But the biggest point of that story is they weren't going to let me drown. And I was able to overcome every single bit of fear to pass that initial test. And I did. And then once I overcame that, I remember inside, it was just a little pool. But I remember feeling confident as hell, like nothing was going to stop me. Just that little one thing. And it's weird. But this was the first time, I left home. I joined the Navy to bring my family to the, I wanted a legacy. I always grew up watching the movies, idolizing the heroes. I wanted to be that. In 6th grade, I was in Mr. Woods' class at Edison Middle School. And Mr. Woods was like, typical question for all his students. What do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be when you grow up? And of course, everybody's getting typical answers. Doctor, lawyer, baseball player, blah, blah, blah. Mr. Woods came up to my desk and he says, Gabriel, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I remember looking to the left, looking to the right. And then I remember looking at him and I said, I want to be remembered. And at the time, I'm only in 6th grade. What would I possibly know? And why? I remember saying that. And he was like, what do you mean you want to be remembered? I'm like, I don't know. I just want to do something in this world that I can be remembered. Babe Ruth died a long time ago, but I can remember the story of him pointing and hitting a home run. I can remember people that live way before, but obviously they did something in this world that we can talk about them to this day. I want that. And looking into my Navy career, I've always had that mentality. I've always had that, what can I do on this day that's going to allow me to better myself and to better our legacy as the Gonzales family. And October 23rd, 1998 is when I graduated Recruit Training Command Boot Camp. I joined because of my family, my mom, my dad, my brothers, and we were never affectionate towards each other. We loved each other. We had each other's back. But we never really looked at each other and said, "Hey, I love you." It was there, but we never said it. So I remember being in boot camp, writing letters to my brother Dominic and Fernando, and explaining how they made an impact in my life, and then of course my mom and dad explaining all the sacrifice they did, because when you have nothing else to think about, and you're taken away from your environment, and it's either sink or swim, you want to think about your motivation on why you're doing what you're doing, and it was them. So October 23rd, 1988, I graduated, and my dad was there to see me, my mom was there to see me, and I'll never forget this. And my family who are listening this far, I remember seeing my mom, hugging me, excitement, but it was my dad having that man cry, that the chin moving and slow tears coming down, and he was my hero. My dad had a lot of heart. Once I grew up and realizing everything he did, 2 jobs day and night, he did so much for the family. My mom worked her ass off. My mom is the anchor of the family, so strong. But I remember my dad did everything he could to kind of, help us out and still be there. I saw my dad maybe for an hour in the middle of the day while he was sleeping to go to work at night. And then on my baseball games, he'll sneak away to watch me pitch. And looking back, it's amazing what a job he did. What resources he had. It's amazing that he did his job. And I'll talk more about recruiting later. But so when he hugged me, he whispered in my ear, "If I die tomorrow, I'm a proud father today." You know how impactful those words are? If I die tomorrow, I'm a proud father today. I'm the baby of my family. We all chose our paths. We all did what we could. And now that I'm a father of 3, it's what can I do to set them up? And looking at my dad at that time, I was honored. I was honored to represent. And we had a good weekend, and it was off my next evolution, school. So I made 2 deployments, met the best of friends, been to countries like Israel, Greece, Cyprus, Malta, France twice, Italy, 4 times, Spain 4 times, Israel. A lot of stories too, but maybe not for this video. But it was a great time. And I remember that at this point, I'm a father. Me and Cena were together for already a couple years, doing what we're doing. But I wanted to become a recruiter. I remember I had the interview because I was an E4, and truth be told, I had a captain's mass already under my belt, which we can probably get into later on. But I had to sell myself on, with this captain's mass, why should I be eligible to go recruiting? And I'm a talker, so I did, and I got approved. I used that story to kind of, help me out to get into recruiting. Went to recruiting school, and it sucked for me. I was a bullshitter. I was a motivator. But they were trying to teach me how to sell a computer. Like, they're going through all the PSS selling skills and stuff like that, professional selling skills. So my boy Abdul Abdul, send you a shout out. We met, and literally they didn't like us. There was a senior chief running the class that he thought we were too cocky. He thought we weren't going to be good recruiters. We weren't going to make it. He was a prior recruiter coming back, and he was a student, signalman. And once we got through the PSS part, everything was kind of smooth sailing. It was easy. But I remember giving that negative motivation, like, watch, I'm going to be a good recruiter. I'm going to be a great recruiter. I'm going to be the best one. So I graduated recruiting school. I showed up to Pasadena, my station. You have what's called, you know, I guess house hunting leave, even though I was gonna move in with my parents at first. So I had house hunting leave, and this is what kind of set me up in my recruiting career. So Pedro Solero Puente and Chief Castaneda at the time was still there, but he was already on his way out. So I didn't know at the time there's a thing called Mission Day, which is the last day of the month where you have to make go. And so this is the politics of recruiting. So he calls me and says, "Yo, Gonzo, I know you don't start till like 2 weeks from now, bro, but you're from Houston. Do you know anybody that wants to join the Navy?" And I was like, "Oh man, not on top of my head. I mean, I just got here. I've been gone for 4.5 years from home. So, being the Joe Navy that I am and don't want to let anybody down, I hang up the phone and I go to Mason Park. I put on my white uniform, the CNTs, and I walk over to Mason Park, and I just walk around talking to everybody. Hey man, what's going on? I grew up right down the road. Blah blah blah. I play baseball over there. Blah blah blah." And I came across a pack of maybe 6 teenagers making small talk. They went to Milby High School, which was one of our schools. And I get to talking. Maybe an hour later, less than that, I called Mario and said, "Hey, I need somebody to come over to Mason Park. I got 4 guys. They want to talk with you." 2 end up joining the next day, admission day. 2. So I put 2 people in the Navy without being checked in yet. Of course, they didn't, I wasn't what they call on the books yet. But it felt cool, one, to help these 2 guys out that ended up making a commitment. Because I talked to them, I stayed with them, but it also felt good to help out my office. But it kind of put me on a pedestal. Mario was bragging everybody, saying, "Yo, this guy ain't even checked in. He's Puerto Rican. This guy didn't even check in yet. He already put people in the Navy." And so now the spotlight's on me. And the spotlight was already on me because they were going to try to send me to Lake Charles to recruit. And I said, "I'll be best if you keep me in the city." And I grew up in Southeast Houston. And I already called Mario saying, "Hey, y'all need somebody?" Like, "Yeah, we need somebody." But once they assign you, they assign you. So at the time, it was Master Chief Holt. Like, "Master Chief Holt, I know you want to send me to Lake Charles, but, if you keep me in the city, I can do well." It was like, "Well, Gonzales, you speak Spanish, right?" "Yeah." I don't speak Spanish. Still to this day, I don't speak Spanish. So I lied to him. I get assigned Pasadena. And one thing that I started doing was I started reading and listening to motivational speakers. And one thing that I can tell you right now to be successful, it wasn't about me. I already had the Navy under my belt. I was already in 4.5 years. I felt successful. I've been around the world. I've participated in Operation Enduring Freedom, Iraqi Freedom. I participated in Operation Kosovo. I already had a name. I already had a beginning of a legacy. If I can make it in just that short span and have the mindset to be successful, my mission was to help as many people in my community as possible. Because it worked for me, let me teach you to do better than me. That was my mission. And I remember Les Brown even talks about, and I just started hearing him again, if you help enough people with their problems, your problems go away. If you help enough people pay their bills, you'll never have a bill. So I put everybody in front of me. Everybody. And it worked. I met recruiters that had no business recruiting, who were doing it for the wrong reasons. I'm trying to, yeah, it's a bonus to make rank. I'm trying to do this, but I don't want to give away no names. But me and this one recruiter, we're always competing 1 and 2. I knew I recruited for my reasons. He had his reasons. But we bumped into each other at MEPS. Somebody was processing. In recruiting, we had this thing called a paintbrush. And once again, politics. If you're Hispanic, back then, I know it's different now. There's no really wickeds. But if you're Hispanic and score above a 50, you're considered a HumG, Hispanic upper middle group. Blacks, bumgees. Then you had your Pacific Islanders, Punji, I guess you would say. So, obviously, Pasadena is more of a Hispanic community, and there are African Americans. There are very small Asian Pacific markets, but anyway, I didn't paint anybody. So somebody was painting somebody, and I met this kid, and if I remember, his name was Wilson. This kid had freckles, red hair. I mean, but I look at his record because he handed it to me to give it to him. He got CT, Crypto Tech. That's an awesome job. Awesome job. So I'm like, man, Wilson, congratulations, man. Awesome job, man. Crypto Tech's a really good job. And this other recruiter comes and says, did you do what I told you? And he's like, yeah, I didn't feel comfortable doing that. And he looked at him literally and said, this is the guy I'm trying to beat. I need the points. I told him that he told Wilson to say he was Hispanic, black, so he can get the HumG BumG points. And I looked at the other guy and I'm like, first off, congratulations, Wilson. And then I told him on the side, you're a piece of shit. I knew what I was doing in Pasadena. I was doing it for the right reasons. And one funny part is that I show up to Pasadena in May. So May, June, July, August, September, October. So about 5 months of recruiting on the books. So at the end of May is when I show up. My station, NRS Pasadena, was at 77% of making mission for the year. 77%. In 5 months, helping guys from Pasadena High School, where my assigned schools were Pasadena High School and Galena Park. I went in there hitting the ground running. Let me talk to your class. Gave them, 90-minute speeches and stuff like that. My mission was to help as many students as I can. But while doing that, I was able to get the Pasadena office to 135% in 5 months. So come at the end of the year during the wartime, the station qualified for accommodation medal. Because I was only there 5 months, not 6 months, I wasn't eligible. So Lyric went there and Bose, Maddox, they tried. I was like, it is what it is. I helped out these, guys. I'm good. But I didn't get the comm that year. But, man, recruiting was the best time. I miss it. And I found this book. And these are everybody that pretty much signed a book. Jaramillo, who I saw on Facebook, who went for a run. I mean, just different people. Jimmy Medina, Renee Serrato. And there's a lot of people in here. So I told my therapist, I miss it. Hold on, push pause right now. Sorry, Alessio walked in. Where was I at? So, the book. So many stories. And I want to start doing more of these videos for Alessio and Dominic and Tony. I want to start loading up YouTube. Because like I told my therapist, apparently in the last couple years, I got too comfortable. I love my job, Vac 1, Mike Long, Brad, all them, Paul, everybody shout out. Boyd, but I got too comfortable. I was a damn good recruiter, and they told me that, so I believed them. But I got too comfortable. And one thing I learned from these motivational speakers is you never want to get too comfortable. I've gained extra weight. I slipped on my diabetes. A1C went up. I think I'm at 7, which is not good, but not horrible. But it's still, no excuse. And I've been in therapy for 2 years now, and I miss the spotlight. And what I mean by that is I told my therapist that sometimes I feel like I'm not living to my full potential. I had a voice when I was in the uniform, and I took advantage of it as far as helping others. A lot of hours, a lot of time away from home. Let me push pause real quick because I want to get a trophy to show. All right, I'm back. So I have a lot of these. I know you can't read it, but there's a lot of awards that I have. And so, little secret recruiting for the current recruiters that might be listening to this. I used to set them all on my desk. And it wasn't to show off. It was part of a strategy I came up with. But it was a true strategy. It wasn't a lie. So, student from Pasadena High School, after my presentation, would show up to the office and say, "Wow, you must be a good recruiter." I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, I do well." And he goes, "You have all these trophies." And I'll grab a trophy and I said, "Look," I said, "each one of these trophies represent the commitment that I'm willing to make for you. But also, I want you to think about this. Each one of these trophies that I earn is time away from my wife. It's time away from my child. And at the time, it was just us and Tony. I was a workaholic. I put family third. Cena was military as well. So I told her, hey, you know how this game works. The Navy needs me. These kids need me. Sundays, I was working. I was taking people to hotels. I was doing, interviews. I was working sometimes at 1 a.m. because, oh, my dad works nights, but he wants to talk to you. And I will make that commitment to them. So I have all these trophies displayed. And I'm like, so look at all these trophies. These are times. This is the commitment that I'm willing to make to you. So I'm willing to sacrifice time away from my family to make sure that you get every bit of information. And it's my job to make you better than me. So let's do this. And we will make the commitment together. And I don't know. Like, this is the first video I'm doing, so I don't know how far in depth we want to go. But it's been 33 minutes right now. I just want to share what's going on in my head. And as I continue to make these videos, I will share more. If you take the time to comment or, send me a message, I want to share information that can help somebody else out. I remember sharing the fact that I was seeing a therapist 2 years ago when I did, because for many, many years, I was in the chair. And I want to open up a little bit of my mind to you and let you know sometimes where my mind is at. And sometimes it's not healthy because I care too much. Every little thing makes some type of impact with me. And the best way I explain to my therapist is like, have you seen Superman 2? And, she says, yeah. Remember where Superman gives up his powers and becomes Clark Kent full time? And he's at the deli. Nobody recognizes him. Then the bad guys come in. He tries to put up a fight. And no power. So when I got out the Navy, and I'll definitely get into one of the highlights of my career so far, I gave up that power to help people process in, but it was a time coming, but it was definitely a hard decision. It was definitely a hard transition for me. I was miserable. And seeing my wife come home in uniform, I was jealous. And it was a hard time. It was a hard transition. And you feel like, did I make enough impact? Am I selling out? All these things start going in your head. But If it wasn't for whatever happened to me, I wouldn't have found out that I was a diabetic, diagnosed at 29 years old. Um, 29 years old, diabetes. But I took it for the family. Thank God Dominic don't have it. Fernando doesn't. I think he's pre-diabetic, but he'll overcome it. But anyway, I do have medical conditions, and on top of that, there are some baggage that I carry, and I don't know if I should save that one for another day, but I'll save it for another day. Yeah, but let's talk about highlights right now. I When I was at Vac One, which is my previous company, and I'm furloughed at the moment, but it's okay. I'm financially secure. I'm good. But when I was at Vac One, I did interviews with maybe 3 to 4 other companies during my tenure at Vac One. And one of the reasons why I used to like interviewing is to kind of see if you still have it. Do I still have, just to feel wanted. This is more of career needs. I am somebody that needs validation. My wife knows me. I'm a peacock. If you do the personality test, I'm a peacock. I'm always has to be in the spotlight. I gotta be the funny one, the liked one. If you meet me in person, you know my dedication is there. You know where my heart's at. Social media, I'm a troll, and I'm sorry for that. That is not me. It's hard being me. I look at the world for what it is, and sometimes it is frustrating seeing people not care about their position in life, not care about the fact that they're a parent, not care about the fact that they have, like, you're giving me all your gripes, all your things, but yet you do nothing. And I see a lot of people that have they're afraid to lose, so they never play to win. So they stay here, and that's it. Looking back, I took a chance leaving my family, leaving my friends to see what the world had to offer. And when I was in that position, I remember helping others around me, like, see the big picture of what we're doing. Right now we're in a quarantine. Yes, it sucks. I've been spoiled with life. It sucks. But I remember also being on deployment. I wouldn't say it sucked because we were doing a mission. We were doing what we set out to do. But I remember the hottest day in my Navy career, and I remember the coldest day of my Navy career. But I remember being on the flight deck, and it was hot, and people were complaining. And I looked left and I looked to my right again, and I realized that I told my boy, Aaron's like, dude, we're going through the Straits of Gibraltar right now. Like, Africa's there and Spain is right there. Like, this, we're never gonna see this in our lifetime. Our families might never see this in a lifetime. And that's one thing that I did, was that I lived for my family. Israel, all kinds of stuff that I went to. I looked at the world for them, because as much as I love my parents, I knew they would probably never go to Israel. They would never go to Italy. They would never go to these places. So I gotta live for them. I It was probably, I did two deployments, and it wasn't until my 4th year when they realized that I don't drink. So let's say this is a beer bottle, and it would be to right here. So as soon as we hit a country and we go to a bar, because I'm tagging with people, I would grab the nearest bottle and walk with it. And they're like, Gonzo, you want another one? I'm like, oh, I'm still working on this one. And I would do that every place we go to. And don't get me wrong, man. I'm not saying I'm better than you because I didn't drink. I didn't have to, like, I was already a sociable person. I was already a brave person. As far as I didn't need, like, alcohol to give me the courage to talk to somebody. I mean, I landed Cena, a beautiful woman. That's another story, but I tell Tony and I tell Alessio now, like, hey, not the best looking guy, but I landed your mom, and I had commitment. I had confidence. And even back in my recruiting days, I was confident. I had the answers. I just didn't know where you're going to be stationed at. And that's what it came down to. So it was a tough time, man. But it was a great time. It was worth it. Let's fast forward all these years later to present day. I look at your Facebook. I used to recruit off Facebook for our West Texas positions, so I can't help but to see Facebook. And it's good seeing you guys that took that chance, the commitment, guys and girls. Seeing you with kids now, seeing you married and buying your first house, seeing you in your careers now. I, I go back to the book. I go back to the book and I see 17, 18-year-old you and remember that commitment that we made to each other. And then we took that oath. And so many years later, in some cases 16 years later, seeing you where you're at now makes me feel better. Makes me feel like I didn't lie. And that's the most important thing. Is that in 6th grade, I said that I want to be remembered. And it's not vanity. I made sure I checked with my therapist. I said, is it vain to want to be remembered? No. I had a purpose. God blessed me with the ability to communicate with somebody and making them feel comfortable and making a life decision. I didn't quit on you. I didn't take no. I made you see the big picture. I invested time into showing you different options and say, if you go with me, I got your back. I got your back. And I remember telling people, I'm ahead of you, knocking all the weeds out, saying, take the next step, take the next step, take the next step. One thing I learned from my brothers is what to do and what not to do. Dominic graduated high school. Fernando didn't. Fernando got 2 girls pregnant at an early age. Dominic didn't. But I remember learning from both. I love both my brothers to death. Luckily, now we hang out. Everybody, beautiful nieces that I have, beautiful nieces that I have on the other side. We made it. We still hang out to this day, and that's something that I don't take for granted. I had somebody was playing poker with us, said, wait, y'all brothers? And like, yeah. Like, man, that's cool. Y'all see each other once a week. I don't even hang out with my brother, and he lives here. And I'm like, so I look around, I like the fact that we still hang out. But back, 17-year-old me, I wanted more. I wanted to do something different. And I remember me and Fernando talk more, heart-to-heart talk. But Dominic, not to single you out, but I know you're not very confrontational. But I'll never forget this, Dominic, when we first started playing poker, or at Mike's house, and we're taking a break, everybody's kind of walking around doing their thing, and you looked at me, and you said, why did you leave? Why the Navy? And I was shocked because you asked me that in the middle of poker. And when everybody's walking around, I'm like, okay. But I looked at you and I said, because of you guys. I wanted y'all to be proud. And I made that decision. I got a beautiful wife, 3 boys, tons of memories. And it's looking back at it, and like I said, I want to make more of these videos. I made the right decision. I mentored a lot of people, and I'm getting back in it. And I'm rambling right now, and I'm sorry for that. Usually I have a game plan and things like that. But tomorrow I turn 40, and tonight I'm 39, and I made a commitment to myself. I'm a diabetic. 40 is it's no avoiding it. I'm getting older. I lost my dad 4 years ago to diabetes, but I'm not gonna lie to you. He stopped fighting years before that. I look at my kids and I'm gonna be in the fight. And I was blessed enough to have conversations with my dad. After I bought my first house at 23. I remember my dad being there saying, this will fix me up home. But he's like, oh, Mio, you got to be beautiful home. I said, no, we got to be beautiful home. And that's one thing I used to always tell my applicants. And And Freeman, if you're listening to this part, you're right. One thing about, oh, sorry, Rogers, big time apologize. But I was assigned, I was assigned Pearland, Baybrook, because I was at Pasadena. And I remember they mentioned, well, of course he can recruit at Pasadena. He can relate to them. You know, he grew up poor. You know, let's see how he does in the rich side of the town. I did better because the education was better at Clearbrook High School. And but one of my strongest parts about recruiting was PCs, parent getting the parental consent. That was my bread and butter. I knew how to talk to mom. I knew how to talk to dad. And a couple of times I made a couple of dads cry. And a lot of times when I was talking to a mom and dad, I visualized my parents sitting across, knowing what their fears were and knowing where I'm at now. How could I make them feel comfortable when doing this decision? And a lot of times, you know, straight out, I told them, you did your job as a parent. You know, if you didn't do your job, I wouldn't be talking to your son or daughter. You know, if they were on drugs, if they had a felony, if physical requirements are there, you know, whatever it was, I told them, you did your job as a parent. Congratulations. Statistically, a lot of people don't qualify for the military. A lot of people don't qualify for the Navy. So the fact that we're sitting here, you did your part. And then we would just talk more and more. You know, I opened up a lot. And I'll never forget this one person. I was set up. So one of my guys, no names, of course. There's only one guy. I'll probably give a couple names before I start doing the direct videos for certain people I want to send shout outs to. But I was told to come to this house. He wanted to join the Navy. And I didn't know at the time mom was Jehovah's Witness. So for about 25 to 30 minutes, I was being told I was going to hell. I was doing the devil's work. All this blah, 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 blah. It was crazy. But for 25, 35 minutes, I'm being hammered about going to hell. But the whole time as she was talking, I was trying to find my window. What can I say that can convince her? And I told him, you sure you want to join the Navy? He's like, yeah, because I'm getting hammered by your mom right now. And so he's like, yeah, I want to join the Navy. I'm like, all right, we're going to do this together. We're going to figure out a way. So when it came down to it, you know, she was Jehovah's Witness. Her son wasn't he wasn't practicing Jehovah's Witness. So I told her, I'm like, look, as of right now, and you're saying I'm going to hell, and that's what those are your words, because I'm not in the book. Well, as of right now, your son is not in the book. So regardless of what you're telling me, and according to you, your son's going to hell too. And then we rambled on about that. And then she says, well, are there any weapons on the ship? I'm like, of course, we're military. Yes, there's weapons. She goes, well, he can't go. I'm like, okay, well, then pull him out of school. And she was like, why would I do that? I'm like, there are cops assigned to the school. And guess what? They have weapons. Yeah, but that's in case somebody, you know, attacks the school. I'm like, exactly. Your son wants to be a mechanic, a diesel tech. He wants to do something with his hands. Guess what? We have people like GMs. We have people like FCs. They handle all the weapons. They do all the protection. So if you have one concern about that, then I want you to pull your son out of school, because guess what? There are cops in there that have weapons. And she's all like, oh my God. Like, and then she says, well, let me pray on it. And we go by last names. I'm like, well, let me add this, man. I said, and I gave her my card. I said, we can pray on it, or we can talk right now, because my first name is Gabriel and I'm in a white uniform. So your prayers have probably been answered already. So 10 minutes later, she signs the papers and he joins the Navy. And it was one of my funniest moments, because for literally 30 minutes, I was told I was going to hell. And once again, what I was willing to do for you to get the Navy as an option. Post Navy was definitely a blessing. Now, you know, you get all these awards. And remember I told you about helping people with their problems, your problems go away? I remember telling recruiters coming on board, why did you come recruiting? Because it is a tough job, a lot of hours, crazy, ridiculous. Some people came for the wrong reasons. But I would tell them, if you do it for them, you can kind of set your own goals. Everything will be accomplished. I showed up to recruiting as an E4, and then 2.5 years later, by helping out a lot of people, I was wearing E6, and I earned it through, I earned it. And I bring that up because I want recruiters to do it for the right reasons. You have the power to change somebody's life for the better. Take advantage of that power. Stop getting caught up in the politics. I love Greek mythology, and like I tell Alessio, I was Prometheus in recruiting. I stole from the gods and gave to the people. I gave fire to the people. I give you all the information, and then regardless of what tactics I use, I would get sometimes in trouble. Not really, because I was kind of protected, but my tactics were different. But I was willing to go through whatever so you can have the best opportunities. But it wasn't until after the Navy is when I realized it was worth it. I took a job. I piloted a program for Weatherford. I piloted their military program, and I was assigned through Kelly Services, working for Weatherford, and I took a program that started in the Gulf region, and this is how I met one of my mentors, Bill Worley. Pretty much. No, I'll save that for another one. I'll save because we're hitting up in an hour, and I know I already lost a few people. But for those that stuck around, I appreciate it. I'm gonna make more of these videos, but let's save that one. Cliffhanger, my Weatherford career. This Weatherford was, I would say, the awakening. This is when I was able to give back, not to putting people in the Navy, but to helping all my fellow brothers and sisters get jobs, getting out, and literally like 1,000 plus. And that was a good ride. And I think we'll save that one because I definitely want to share more details on being I would say in just a different atmosphere. I never knew where the Navy would take me. I've been on cruise control at that point. I was just doing my job, and in return, I was granted a blessed life. Um, but it's not over. Obviously, I'm turning 40 only. I plan to do more in my life, but I think right now, going through this quarantine, being laid off, you kind of put things in perspective. And I've been running, walking the last 5 days in a row. I need to get on top of my diabetes. I need to find myself again and get back to that peacock self. Like, stop being so, just focus on the big picture again. I have Dominic, my youngest son, is diabetic. He's autistic, and that's been a challenge in itself. But I've always faced challenges, being a father at a young age, to being in recruiting, which is known as crazy land. But I made it. Piloting a program for $1 billion company and taking it to the next level. It's just one accomplishment after accomplishment after accomplishment. But one thing I want to get out is that the fact is that I did this for family. Everything has been for family. I love them to death. And I know for the people that have been kind of following me through social media, I'm sometimes the bad guy because I say what it is, and I try to look at the other side of the coin. But if after this social distancing is over, I'm an extrovert. I don't want us to be social media friends. I miss the gatherings. I pay extra money, whatever I can, to get my friends together so we can go to events. I'm down. I'm a loyal friend, and I love hanging out with my buddies. But I know everybody has their own lives, everybody has their own problems. But sometimes, getting together, UFC fights, baseball games, basketball games. I mean, sometimes they help us get to the next day, and I think that's one thing I miss about this whole situation I'm going through right now. I miss the interactions. I miss I miss socializing with people. Right now, I mean, my kids are my kids, but you know how that is with little Dominic. But you know, I love my family, but right now, I think that's why I'm making this video. You know, I want to be heard. I want everybody to know that whoever I cross paths with, as far as from Deppers to family members to friends that I met through, you know, recruiting, you know, from my civilian jobs or Weatherford, you know, Kelly Services, VAC One. Um, I cared about your friendship. You know, it was important for me to make you laugh. It was important for me to make you feel comfortable. You know, it was important to me that I made you feel that you were wanted.